One thing I've been thinking a lot about recently, I was thinking a lot about human history and why it is that we always thought that the Earth was the center of the universe. And when you start to play around with this for a minute, I can sort of understand why that is. Here in this random planet, looking at a random moon on this random ring structure, if we were looking at this from the surface of the planet, we could possibly perform a hypothesis about how such a large body was formed in this ring system. And in fact, let's speed up time a little bit. You can see all the other little bits of the ring moving along with it as we go along here. But all it takes is one slight change in perspective to realize that that's not even part of our system. It's its own moon, way off in the distance. Our planet does not have a moon in this ring structure right here. It's all part of the illusion, and it's part of, in my opinion, one of the greatest weaknesses of humanity is believing that we're special, and we see reality, objective reality, and we interpret it to mean that it revolves around us. And I really think we continue to do this to the modern ages in ways that I probably can't even perceive. But of course, this is just the beginning of our journey so far, because as we step back even further, we realize that we're not even the center of our own system. We are just a moon of this planet way over here, and we are small and maybe not insignificant, but definitely not the biggest kid on the block in this one little area. But if you were to look at the orbits, that becomes increasingly clear, but I don't want to do that yet. Now back to the object we started out on. If we were to go far enough back on this object and speed up time, it becomes very clear from this perspective that everything appears to be orbiting around us. And in fact, we can do that with any of these moons. Let's slow down time. Let's pick, how about this moon? Move our camera, speed up time, and suddenly everything now seems to be revolving around us from this position. And you can do that anywhere. Of course, if you were to turn on the orbits, it seems much more clear that we are just a dot in the system of this planet. But all it takes is turning the orbits off to offer the illusion that suddenly everything revolves around us. That sort of ties into the importance, I think, of the objectivity of math and science in identifying our universe. It helps us step away from this bias towards ethnocentricity. Now, why does that matter? You could argue that it doesn't really matter, and as humans, it is very important to us to look out for ourselves and believe that we are important. After all, ethnocentricity and self-centeredness is effective, much as I hate to admit it. But I think it stops being productive at a certain point, because everything we think we know about the universe, because it's based on our personal experiences, what has applied in our lives, starts breaking down on a large enough scale, or a small enough scale, or a long enough scale, or a short enough scale. For example, when we look at things that are very, 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 very large, our knowledge, what we've accumulated through tens of thousands of years of human experience, breaks down. Light that we used to think was instant and unchanging, when we look at a large enough object, begins bending around space. When we look at small enough scales, we get quantum physics that make no sense Suddenly, objects can no longer exist in space. They can only exist as a probability within a waveform. When you look at old enough objects, when the universe was very young, we have no description of why the universe began or what happened during a short time period shortly after. When we look far enough into the future, we don't know whether or not the universe will collapse in on itself or continue expanding forever. What we think we know about reality based on our experience, quite simply, is insufficient information to make a very good judgment call about the nature of reality. That's why I think it's important to always think about your perspective, where you're from, in all things. It'll help us, hopefully, stay grounded and realize that there's infinitely more to learn out there, and that within a few generations, let alone hundreds or thousands or millions of generations, everything that we know about reality is, quite frankly, just gonna be wrong. I don't know how yet, but I can't imagine a future where we don't completely revise all of our physical laws because they always seem to break down at the most extreme scenarios.